All right, it's Wednesday, 4:57 p.m., last day of May, and this is Listen to Tony with me, Anthony Olensky. Yeah, well, I was a bit out a few days, yesterday and the day before. I had to deal with some stuff, but I'm back. I got three things for you. We're gonna go into advice, and I'm not gonna give you any advice, but I'm gonna read out a few cool pieces of advice, and then the last thing is going to be a surprise about a future. About the future. Well, I'm going to start off with a quote as usual from my web browser extension. All right, here it goes. Incredible change happens in your life when you decide to take control of what you do have power over instead of craving control over what you don't. This is from Steve Maraboli, the motivational speaker, and I guess behavioral scientist. Yeah, what do you have control over? What am I going to eat today? Well, supposedly, right? If you have the money, but most of us, or probably whoever listening to this, has control of what they're going to eat. Or am I going to exercise? Or like instead of like the big things, like what is the weather like? Or is my boss going to be a dick today? Or something like that. So take control. I know it's easier said than done, and I'm not gonna go onto the motivational speaker bandwagon. So here's it's just food for thought for you. Anyway, but here I have something that's gonna maybe be a little bit more applicable and interesting for you. Sam Altman, the guy behind OpenAI, the guy who was president of Y Combinator, he wrote a piece with a very catchy title, How to Be Successful. And he wrote this before AI became the big thing. He wrote this piece or he published it. I don't know, he wrote it. He published it on January 24th, 2019 at 10 p.m. And surprising because this guy, for the amount of press he got and how famous he's now, only like a quarter of a million, no, sorry, not quarter, 1.5 million views. Hopefully he'll get more. I mean, he should because he gives like some cool advice. It's a quite a long list. It's 13 points. I'm just gonna skim through this for you. Give you a few cents from and like yeah what I think about this, and then we're gonna move on. So anyway, Sam, here it's how it starts. I've observed thousands of founders and thought a lot about what it takes to take a huge amount of money to create something important. Usually, people start off wanting the former and end up wanting the latter. Here are 13 thoughts about how to achieve such outlier success. Everything here is easier to do once you've already reached a baseline degree of success through privilege or effort, in brackets, and want to put in the work to turn that into outlier success. But much of it applies to anyone. So, first one, and I think it's a good. He also I think he deliberately put in the points in the order that he did because the first one is compound yourself, right? Compounding is magic. Look for it everywhere. Exponential curves are the key to wealth generation. And TLDR here is, just be willing to let small opportunities go to focus on potential step changes. And here's the line I really like. It's useful to focus on adding another zero to whatever you define as zero success metric, money, status, impact on the world, or whatever. I am willing to take as much time as needed between projects to find my next thing. But I always want it to be a project that, if successful, will make the rest of my career look like a footnote. So yeah, you should aim to for your life to follow an ever increasing and up to the right trajectory. Anyway, number 2 is have almost too much self-belief. Self-belief is immensely powerful. The most powerful, so people I know believe in themselves almost to the point of delusion. So yeah, he talks a little bit about managing your own morale, but just like, it's like you have to really kind of, like just like Conor McGregor, right? This guy just he always is amped, like he's gonna win, he's gonna be the best in the world, he's gonna live forever. So yeah, and unfortunately, the more ambitious you are, the more the world will try to tear you down. Uh, so yeah, of course, self belief must be balanced with self awareness. But yeah, there is a balance, but overall, just self belief is fucking important. He gives an example of like walking down the SpaceX factory with Musk a bunch of years, like a few years ago, and then Musk kind of says like like being fully certain about like sending large rockets to Mars, and he left thinking, huh, so that's the benchmark for what conviction looks like. You have to be really fucking convinced about what you're doing. Self belief. All right, number 3, learn to think independently. It's hard, right? And there's just so many things that you want to conform to, or it's easy to fall in love with the ideas, the patterns that most of the people surrounding you have. Um, but he gives an example. I will fail many times and will be really right once, is the entrepreneur's way. You have to give yourself a lot of chances to get lucky. So learn to think independently, fail. One of the most important, powerful lessons to learn is that you can figure out what to do in situations that seem to have no solution. The more times you do this, the more you will believe it. Grit comes from learning. You get you can get up at grit comes from learning that you can get up back up after you get knocked down. It's a weird fucking sentence, but basically, yeah. Thinking independently. Number 4 out of 13, if you're still here, get good at sales, right? Like sales, like anything, like sales doesn't mean just getting customers to use your thing. It's talking to investors, partners, whatever. Like just getting good at communication. You have to be able to convince people of what you believe, be it employees, whatever. So here's like my big sales tip is to show up in person whenever it's important. When I was first starting out, I was always willing to get on a plane. It was frequently unnecessary, but 3 times it led to career making turning points for me that otherwise would have gone the other way. All right, sales. That's another thing to be. You can become successful. Make it easy to take risks. So he talks here about getting a risk, letting it go, not getting attached too much to your title, salary, your ego. But the concluding paragraph, it's just great. When you aren't on the treadmill, meaning the treadmill is running, trying to kind of keep up with whatever is going on around you, with all your friends, and just the day-to-day and short-termism, you can follow your hunches and spend time on things that might turn out to be really interesting. Keep your life cheap and flexible as long as you can is a powerful way to do this. But obviously it comes with trade-offs, right? Because like once you start feeling a certain level of comfort, you start amassing things, whatever, it's harder to let go, it's harder to plan. So staying lean as long as possible. Don't buy all this shit that you don't, like, you think, oh, like I might need a new plant and I need this poster and I need a fucking 10th pair of shoes. No, 3 pairs of shoes, 6 t-shirts, 5 pants, 2 shorts, 4 sweaters, 2 jackets, and you're ready to go, I guess. Underwear, yeah, one suitcase, and let yourself be able, is because like flexibility is so important, especially in the early stages. So how to be successful? Number 5, make it easy to take risks, and they just be opportunistic. Focus is a force multiplier at work. Once you figure out what to do, be unstoppable about getting your small handful of priorities accomplished quickly. Work hard, right? Is another thing about being successful. You can be smart, whatever, but working hard should be. He talks about like how this working hard thing is being bashed recently. A little bit of burnout, but yeah, one more thought about working hard. Do it at the beginning of your career. Hard work compounds like interest, and the earlier you do it, the more time you have for the benefits to pay off. It's also easier to work hard when you have fewer other responsibilities, which is frequently, but not always, the case when you're young. Be bold. Number 8, right? believe in like that you can. This goes back, I guess, to point number three about self belief, but just like if everyone else is starting meme companies and you want to start a gene editing company, then do that and don't second guess it. Follow your curiosity. Things that seem exciting, you will often seem exciting. Will often seem exciting to other people too. So yeah, it's number nine is be willful. A big secret is that you can bend the world to your will a surprising percentage of the time. Most people don't even try and just accept that things are the way they are. They're not. People have enormous capacity to make things happen. Um, so yeah, persistence. Airbnb is a benchmark of this. Yeah, like they had it hard at the beginning, TLDR, but now look at Airbnb, right? So to be willful, you have to be optimistic. Hopefully, this is a personality trait that can be improved with practice. I have never met a very successful pessimistic person, right? So don't bitch about life or whatever your problems are. Try to change things. Number 10, be hard to compete with. Most people understand that companies are more valuable if they are difficult to compete with. This is important and obviously true. And this holds true for individuals as well. Best way to become difficult to compete with is to build up leverage, right? And leverage can be you can do this by having great interpersonal relationships, building strong personal brand, getting good at the intersection of multiple different fields. But you have to be, and like being hard to compete with is like you have to have a moat. You have to be, it has to be hard to replicate you. You have to be outstanding. You have to be different. Most people do whatever most people they hang out with do. This mimetic behavior is usually a mistake. If you're doing the same thing everyone else is doing, you will not be hard to compete with, right? So maybe don't go too hard on that thing of like I'm different, but just because you gotta stay in certain abide by certain social norms. I've crossed the line a few times, but and don't force it. It's like cause, we just look fucking weird, but don't be afraid to be yourself. And yeah, be hard to compete with. 11, we got what, three more to go. 11 out of 13. Build a network. Great work requires teams. Developing a network of talented people. Yada yada yada. Yeah, be overly generous with sharing the upside when you're taking when other people have helped you. And yeah, you want to have a reputation for pushing people hard that they can accomplish more than they thought they could, but not so hard they burn out. So yeah, kind of this whole long section about networking and building a network and how important it is to get good at discovering undiscovered talent. But yeah, I always he writes, I try to always ask myself when I meet someone new, is this person a force of nature? It's a pretty good heuristic for finding people who are likely to accomplish great things. A special case of developing a network is finding someone eminent to take a bet on you, ideally early in your career. The best way to do this, no surprise, is to go out of your way to be helpful. And remember that you have to pay this forward at some point later. And yeah, finally, remember to spend time with people who are positive and support your ambitions. 12, you get rich by owning shit. Or he writes things, but yeah, it's not about the salary. Like you can get a really nice 6-figure salary at Google or Facebook or whatever. But and if you're an entertainer, if you're a musician or whatever, like you concerts and you get a lot of money from that. But you get truly rich by owning things that increase in value, rapidly in value. So you have to business, real estate, natural resource, intellectual property. And here she says just like make sure that people want at scale, and then like your wealth will compound. You'll get rich. And 13, the last one, be internally driven, right? So the most successful people I know are primarily internally driven. They do what they do to impress themselves and because they feel compelled to make something happen in the world. So he gives a few examples. But yeah, eventually you'll define success by forming excellent work in areas that are important to you. The sooner you can start off in that direction, the further you will be able to go. It is hard to be wildly successful at anything you aren't obsessed with. So some points are interesting and cool, and just for me, I was like, I scratched my head and I thought about them a little bit. Some were a little bit more obvious. But yeah, How to Be Successful by Sam Altman. I put the link in the show notes. Read the whole thing because I obviously skipped a bunch of things. I did read out all of the points for you and I gave you the highlights, but it's really worth giving it a read. And like he really follows his own advice. Look at him now, right? Touring the world, meeting up with presidents, prime ministers, and running the I guess one of the most successful and the most successful startups in human history. So yeah. Now it's a quick transition, and it's also a piece of advice or how you can even how to put to work the things that Sam mentions. It's an article from Business Insider, and the title goes, "Young people should never be at home if they want to be successful professionally." NYU professor says. So NYU professor, surprise, surprise, Scott Galloway. He's this marketing guru. He has a cool podcast. He does a bunch of things, but TLDR, he says young people should never be at home if they're seeking professional and romantic success. So yeah, Scott Galloway basically says, and here is like, you can't have it all. You just can't have it all at once. And while we all know that guy or gal who has a great relationship with their parents is in amazing shape, has a food blog, donates time at the ASPCA, and is a DJ on the weekends, assume you're not that person. And what he's trying to say, like, you need to work your ass off. You can't just chill at home or like pretend that you're doing, remote hybrid. No, show up. And he just says, before you collect dogs and spouses, get into the office, establish mentors, establish friends. And this is kind of a cherry on top of the whole How to Be Successful piece by Sam, because I agree. Like, I get why remote work makes sense for a lot of people who have families, who maybe they need to drop off their kids at school and they don't want to then have to drive to the office, a waste of time. They just have to take care of the household, and they think they can multitask or whatever. Ideally, they'd be at the office too, I believe. But it's like a trade-off that can still work. But if you're young and you're living alone or just with your roommate, why the fuck would you stay at home? Why would you work from home? Go to the office because you want to be there for the magical moments. Like, you're sitting there and there's someone way more senior who has a problem, where there's an emergency meeting and you're being called in. Like, no one's gonna try to really make sure that the associate makes it into the Zoom call or into the meeting. No, like, these things, like, there's so much serendipity going on at the office that you should just be there just waiting for that moment for you to shine, where you're passing by and you hear two executives arguing over something, and I don't know, you sense that they don't have the right data, or they don't really know what they're talking about, and you just jump to your computer, spend an hour to write a little report on the things they're talking about, and just send it to them by email saying, yo, like, I heard you guys talking about XYZ, this is what I think we should do, this is what I found, so I think we should do, add value, and then you progress. Like, office politics, it's also very important. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, actually. I found a cool article. I don't want to take too much time today, but yeah, I'm going to talk about office politics in the next episode. And last but not least, a tweet from Shan Puri, Shan on Twitter, but yeah, inventor of 2-hour lunch break. That's his kind of funny little bio. But yeah, started 6 companies, 3 failed, 2 sold, 1 still going. And yeah, he is the co-host of My First Million podcast. Pretty cool. Recommend it. And this is a prediction about the future. So then here's Sean's Twitter post. The next Zuckerberg is up all night coding up an AI girlfriend boyfriend. So Steve Jobs fixed boredom, phone. Zuck fixed people watching Facebook. Steve Jobs fixed boredom, right? So the phone. Zuck fixed people watching Facebook, IG, in brackets, and Spiegel. So Steve, iPhone, right? Zuck, Facebook, and Spiegel, Snapchat, fixed flirting. The next one will fix loneliness, right? Everyone talks about the loneliness crisis, mainly in the U.S., but I guess across the globe. But yeah, in the U.S., it's a big thing. So yeah, people will mock it, use it, and be addicted to it. And there are like the first comment is like, yeah, this kind of exists already. There's replica.ai, character.ai. But yeah, so it's starting. We're getting there, and yeah, the big problem associated with loneliness. And curious about the first AI girlfriend boyfriend. Are you gonna use it? Anyway, thanks. That's all for today. How to be successful? 13 points. Get your ass back in the office. Serendipity. And yeah, if you're thinking about what's the biggest problem that should be solved right now, or one of the big problems that people should be thinking about solving, it's loneliness, and an AI girlfriend boyfriend. It's a wild proposition. Kind of sad because there's so many. Like we already have each other, right? But let's see. So that's all for today. Incredible. That's a quote again that I started off the pod with. Incredible change happens in your life when you decide to take control of what you do have power over instead of craving control over what you don't. All right, that's it. Bye.